We'll go left side, front row.
Good morning, John. Seth Jarvis said he's playing tonight. Who does he replace, and how did you guys arrive at that decision?
He's going to replace Connecting tonight, and same reason. There's a lot of why it was reversed the last game, and just needs and wants, and it's we built this team to win, and everybody's going to have to chip in their own ways. Some chip in some games, some chip in others, and some chip in all of them. And they've all been a big part of why we're sitting here, and was ultimately it.
Left side, second row.
John, from the start of this tournament, there's been this backdrop of kind of political energy. It's pretty charged. A little more of that this morning with the president reaching out to them. Do you sense any of that in the room among the players? A lot of Canadians, I think, feel a little frustrated right now. Is there any motivation that's added to this group that has something to do with it?
I don't. Other than the fact that the talk of the 51st state, and then somebody saying, "Wow, we have one hell of a hockey team," and then let's be honest, you'd never get what's going to be contested tonight. The political side of things, we feel for everybody on our side of things, but I think for us to come here and to be in that room, it's going to be more for us to win that game, to sit there, or than sit there and debate what the game means. We have to go out there and represent our country and make them proud. For us, if we accomplish that, then I think we accomplished what we want to. Is make Canadians proud.
Left side, third row.
John, good afternoon. The first time you guys met US on Saturday, you guys were without Mikhail Makar. Can you maybe talk about what you guys were missing that night and what he kind of brings to the team here in the championship final?
Let's be honest, there's a handful of defensemen that you would call the best in the world, and he's in that handful. And so he's a unique talent. And just like you look at some of the other players that are up front, and whether it's the Matthews or the McDavids, Kale he's a generational talent, and anytime you can plug that into your lineup here, I'm pretty happy.
Right side, first row.
Hey there, Coop. You guys had a hell of a home ice advantage the first time you guys met, and tonight that strip gets flipped with them being home team, beating you guys, having the crowd behind them, everything. What's your psychological assessment of what that means for the rematch?
Well, again, being in Canada and being able to play in Montreal and in front of our fans, I don't think it's hard to replicate what happened there. And it's a hockey experience that I will never forget. And just to be able to walk around and see how happy everybody was and just about the sport. Can that be replicated here? I'm not sure. You hope it will be, but I think there were probably more Canadians in the stands in Montreal. How am I saying this? I'm not saying this properly. There's probably going to be more Canadians here than there were Americans in Montreal, if that made any sense. And so, I think in that regard, there might be hotly contested on the ice, and there could be chants going on in the stands, and but we're here to celebrate the sport, and we can sit here and talk politics all we want. This is a different avenue, and for me, we're here to celebrate a game, and if after this game, all the little girls out there and boys out there that are inspired by the players that play this game and how they compete, and if they, after watching tonight, go and become hockey players, that's the real win, not who wins on the ice.
We'll take a couple more left side, third row.
John, Jarvis said today that some of his buddies had their flight canceled and they drove 30 hours from Winnipeg to come to this game. When you hear something like that, what comes into your mind as to the scope of what this game means?
Well, proud to be a Canadian, proud to be in the same heritage of the guys that are coming down, because we have the same passion. It shows how much, this sport and these players, how much it means to them. And wow, it's one thing to do it in June, but it's a tough one.
Right side standing.
Coach, you got 14 Stanley Cup winners in your room, and I'm wondering how much of that seeps into the vibe that that has emanated from your players in the last 24 hours.
There's no question. I mean, that's what you can't put a price tag on the experience. You can rate the driver's test when you're 16 or whatever, but it doesn't mean you can get behind the wheel and drive. And at time, that's the experience of being there. And I've lived it myself. And you look back at the times you lost, you didn't quite get there, and what could you have changed, or how could you have controlled your breathing, or how could you have controlled your mentality, and it all is bottle all that stuff upside for the next time this happens. And tonight it's happening, and so now you have to you reach back on those experiences to help you hopefully get through these ones.
Last one, left side standing.
Yeah, just John, this has the potential to be the best game of the tournament, most watched game potentially ever for hockey. Just what has already been gained here for hockey?
This right here, the fact that everybody's talking about it, that people outside of the arena that normally don't discuss our sport are speaking about it in the water cooler, that I'm sure there's going to be watch parties not only all over in our country, but the United States as well, and people in Europe are going to tune into this game, and they should, because it's richly deserved. But it's richly deserved because you're watching two teams with a ton of passion to play this sport, and that's what the sport is. That's why people say that Stanley Cup's the hardest trophy to win, because it's 2 months of that. And that's why when you are fortunate enough to lift that Stanley Cup, you know how hard it was to get there. And for this game tonight, I think, as I said, it's richly deserving this watch, because of the players and the passion they've put forth, and how much pride each player is in their country. And if you really want to get amped up, the Canadian American para hockey teams are playing at 1 o'clock today, so that's going to set the stage for us tonight.
Thanks, John.